20% chance of precipitation today, but let's hope that there's a 100% chance of me catching a fish. Alright, let's get to it. So let's go over where I am and what gear I'm using. I'm somewhere around White Rock Creek, or more specifically a tributary of White Rock Creek, and I'm using some fly gear today. So the bluegill and green sunfish, two related species, both of the genus Lepomis. They're Lepomis cyanalis and Lepomis macrocallis or something. Point is, they're sunfish and they're about to be caught, hopefully. It appears there's a dead bullhead in the water. Hopefully that hasn't killed off the rest of the fish in this little creek. But the show must go on. Let's add ourselves a couple of seconds to get ready. Well, folks, it looks like I'm out of time. But as it turns out, I don't think a fishing challenge is what was today's intended video, now that I think about it. They don't seem to have been dead for too long. They're all stiff. And they're all young. I probably shouldn't be touching dead, potentially diseased fish. There's a carp there. This one's bloated. Yeah, that's a tiny carp. Another bluegill. What is this? Another carp? Oh no. Dead baby bass. What happened? What happened? And I really like this fishing spot too, so it actually hurts me. Like, well, ladies and gentlemen, all I could say is that I am indeed disappointed and somewhat sad. That's all I can say.
I wasn't going to let this die off of fish go by unnoticed, so I reported the situation to the Texas Parks and Wildlife spill team, who said they would get to the bottom of it. In the meantime, however, I decided to do a bit of sleuthing of my own. Parks and Wildlife said the most probable cause for this area was a potable water release. I wanted to find out for myself what that really means. Before heading back out into the field, however, I did a local search of similar incidents, and as it turns out, it's not the first time fish kills or potable water releases have occurred in Dallas.
There was nothing left to kill.
I want to be on TV.
Dead fish were.
This might be our first clue, or it might be a false lead. So there's clearly runoff here that goes into the creek. However, what goes off into the creek is also visible upstream. So this may be just something completely unrelated, but it does show that there is runoff that potentially has oils and other toxins going into the stream. So it appears our trail of breadcrumbs leads us to right here. This is up Jenkins Branch where this is going on, and we see that there's literally a bunch of dead fish here. It smells awful, and what's even more awful is the amount of dead fish here. We have bullheads, some more sunfish. Here we have a part small fish. It's a fish kill. I reported it to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department school team, and they said they would get onto it. But it's still truly a devastating loss of life. And I'm not sure how this will affect the ecosystem, but I'm sure it will affect it somewhat. This is upstream. This feeds into a creek, so I feel like it's hard for fish to go up a creek and maintain residence there. But I have a feeling that this isn't it. We saw that there's a bit of runoff up there coming from the apartments, and that might be it. According to the spill team, they said that the most common cause of fish kills here in this area is potable water spillage, or a release of potable water. But I have a feeling that there's something else at that may give us more insight or more clues upstream. So let's head out over there and see what we can find. So our next stop is up the creek. We're basically following it to see if we can find the source for all this, whether it be some sort of dumping or anything. We're just looking for wherever this is coming from. Here's another place up the stream, a little pond near Walnut Hill. It is upstream, and thankfully it appears everything is all right. We see turtles here and a largemouth bass and a couple of bluegill. So what this means is that there's nothing upstream. It's a little bit downstream near where we first were. Now, if this were a natural phenomenon, some sort of oxygen deprivation or some other natural event, it could be argued, why am I worried so much? It's something that, while terrible, it happens. The thing is, this creek is situated near a medical facility and a waste processing plant. So the question that comes to mind is, if this were man-made, let's prevent this. Let's prevent this from happening again. If it's natural, then by all means, it's something that just happens and it's terrible. But if it's terrible and it's something that could have been prevented, I feel like it's our duty to find out what that is and make sure it doesn't happen again. We're back to our first point of interest, and I have no answers. I really don't know what happened. The runoff from before that I mentioned earlier ends up downstream near that little bridge. And there's fish that's here up the stream. So at the end of the day, probably could have been some sort of natural event that happened, which doesn't explain why the fish from the pond where this all comes from are still alive, but who knows what might have caused this fish kill. But whatever might have happened, there is an ounce of hope. We have a bunch of minnows here, a bunch of sunfish. Well, not a bunch, but enough that are still alive, quickly swimming away as soon as I get up to the creek. Nature bounces back, and very quickly at that. So whatever happened here, I'm not qualified to say what did happen, at least not yet. But nature will bounce back. Not finding out the cause of the dead fish and watching fish populations elsewhere quickly recover, I figured ending the video here would be a good idea. But I want to hit the 10-minute mark, so a few weeks later, I set off to go fishing in the same body of water to find out if nature really did bounce back, or if it fell victim to another of mankind's blunders. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're here. The place where it all began and the place where this video will end. What I want to find out now is if there's any fish still left in the water, if any have returned at all. So with that in mind, let's begin. So one thing that's for certain here, it's very, very cold. So even if there was something here, that decreases my possibilities of catching anything here. Fish don't like biting in cold weather, traditionally. Unless they're crappie, but I've never seen any crappie here. I want to slip into the water now and do something that's very, very risky, and I probably should hurry up as soon as I do it. There we go. Can I make the jump? Can I make the jump? This looks slippery. Hold on to this. I don't like the looks of this. Fuck. Ah, fuck, thorns. Not my brightest idea. I'm sinking, and I made it. Barely.
Needless to say, my whole trip was uneventful, as I spent more time getting my lures stuck on trees than doing anything else. But upon entering the clearing, with the main river in view, I thought about the potential scale of a future spill. As I was taking photos of the area, my brother sent me a picture of a fish he caught in this same creek just a few days back. Maybe I didn't catch it, but It sure gives me hope for the future of this small river. With that in mind, I'll leave you guys with the video, a long ways back, of myself catching a small fish in this very creek. Before COVID, before the spill, and before a very cold winter front. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. Have a good day, good night, wherever you guys are. And I'll see you guys later.